wanna bring it, you can bring it right there.
When we step in at the party, I wanna hook up on a yardie. Watch me dancing on you. Music like a lot I don't know how to behave, so I get low. I know you want me how you act, so when I wine fast, wine slow. All the man say, girl, I'm your paso. La body fuego, la body drop low. You set the place on fire, fire. Baila, mami, mama, go. Baila, mami, mama, go. Baila, mami, mama, go. You put the fire on me body. Rock it up, rock it up. Take it slow, no rush. We ain't leaving till the morning. Fire on me body. Rock it up, rock it up. Fire on me body. Fire on me, fire on me. Real bass in my heartbeat. Don't chase what you can't keep. Don't hate me cause me dirty. Cause me dirty for true. Let's talk in the friend zone. More ticking on your hip bone. Shot, 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 so the blood's strong. Got me wild. All the man say, girl, I'm your paso. La body fuego. La body drop low. You set the place on fire, fire. Baila, mami, mama, go. Baila, mami, mama, go. Baila, mami, mama, go. Baila. You put the fire on me body. Rock it up, rock it up. Take it slow, no rush. We ain't leaving till the morning. Fire on me body. Rock it up, rock it up. Fire on me body. Fire on me, fire on me. Bang girl inna the place, bang girl inna the place. Put up on your waist, put up on your waist. Go Baila, mami, mama, go Baila, mami, mama, go Baila, mami, mama, go Baila. You put the fire on me body. I need it on me. Take it down to rush. We ain't leaving till the morning. Fire on me body, fire on me body, fire on me body, fire on me body. Say, girl, I'm your paso. La body fuego, la body drop low. You set the place on fire, fire.
One more time. Cause I don't want to leave, just hold me close. Say yeah. If you love me, say yeah. You wanna make this work, say yeah. If you love, if we fail after trying so hard, it's like taking a bullet to the heart. As one word on the next one starts, as we create this destructive path. Yeah. One more time. Yeah. Let's try, girl, let's try. One more time. Cause I don't want to leave, just hold me close. Say yeah. If you love me, say yeah. You wanna make this work, say yeah. If you love me, say yeah. You wanna make this work, say yeah. Me loyal, girl, me know that. But you see me never show that. We were sweet melodies like Mozart. I know that I made so much mistakes. This is why you never called back. Fading away, is this over? Don't flatline. On life support, your heart still beats for me. Are you willing to try? Just tell me, girl, say yeah. One more time. If you're willing to fight, I'll fight for you. Just say yeah. Let's try. If you're not over me, just open your arms accept me, girl, say yeah, 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 yeah. One more time. Believe just so me close. Say yeah, 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 yeah. If you love me, say yeah. Say yeah. You wanna make this work, say yeah, yeah, yeah. Say yeah. If you love me, say yeah. Say yeah, say yeah. You wanna make this work. Let's make this work. If we fail after trying so hard, it's like taking a bullet to the heart. As on one on the next one start, as we create this destructive path. If we fail after trying so hard, it's like taking a bullet to the heart. As on one on the next one start. Here's one question I have to ask.
Trinidad and Tobago, it's that time again. You can't look pan and free
When I dip and ride, dip and ride, dip and ride, dip and make him wanna slip and slide, slip and slide, slip and slide, slip and the way I dip and ride, dip and ride, dip and ride, dip and swing my hips to the side, hips to the side. When I dip and ride, dip and dip, dip and he likes when I whine and bubble and quint up the muscle right there. He likes when I hey, pressure on the right spot, make a blood vessel walk up non-stop to the rhythm we are rock. He beg me please don't stop. So then what I want? Trini girl bad from we bar. Watch me perform. I was just getting warm, but now I'm ready to get on. Watch me perform. Hey, hey, hey. First I bounce to the bass from the speaker, then I bust a belly dance like Shakira, then I turn around and get them hypnotized. When I dip and ride, dip and ride, dip and
get on bad in the band, get on bad in the band, get on bad in the band, get on bad in the party, get on bad in the band, get on bad in the band, get on bad in the band, get on bad, get on one seat. Welcome to Calypso, welcome to Soca Land. Come and meet my people, makers of the steel pan. Let me tell you one time, two times. This is an open invitation. If you want a fun time in the sunshine, book your reservation. Make sure that in February you in the Calypso country, in the tent and the party. Come on the line, don't have your flag already. Friend and them calling you Jimmy, mixing right up with Shandy, teach you to mind. Jumping in a steel band, waving in a mass hand, whining in a rhythm section, climbing in the island, the Calypso island. This is an open invitation. Get on bad in the band, get on bad in the band, get on bad in the band, get on bad in the party, get on bad in the band, get on bad in the band, get on bad in the band, get on bad, get on one seat. Jump and get on, wine and get on, wave and get on like you never party. Jump and get on, Wine and get on, wave and get on, fetting like one a week. Get on body with band, get on body with band, get on body with band, get on body with party. Come join the revelry. It's bacchanal on the road. 2 days of ecstasy, fetting overload. You get panorama, Kaiso fiesta, the mastra, army fet and grass, Juve morning, fire, drop in them, powder, thing don't start, heading for the savannah grass, beauty and glamour, showcase of color, we calling this one, Corrida the pants, now you in your costume, don't leave the hotel room, behind the truck, charming you match you, jumping in a steel and waving in a mask and whining in a rhythm section. Island. Now go tell everybody why this is the world's greatest show. How the mass and the creativity totally captivate you. Tell them when the sun rises, as you open your eyes, you better get set, get ready to go. It could be a big line, big fat or a small line, could be any time. You could passing for you. When you get in the ride, you're possible inside.
You gave us the inspiration to be first. We gave you the solutions that put you first. You trusted us with your vision. We paved the way with innovation. You walked with us side by side, and we continue to serve you with pride. First Citizens is proud of everything we've achieved together. We made dreams a reality, shaped success stories, and painted brighter futures. And together, we'll accomplish so much more. First Citizens, we put you first.
Welcome to the vibrant and colorful Caribbean paradise of Trinidad and Tobago, where the culture is as lively as the people. And when it comes to streaming Trinbago entertainment, there is no better platform than WACK.tv, with a vast selection of local music genres like conscious and humorous calypsos, soca, parang, and many more. WACK.tv is a go-to destination for all your Trinbago entertainment needs. From the latest soca and calypso music videos rolling the Trinbagonian airwaves to cultural events such as carnival, calypso, soca, and steel pan competitions, WACK.tv has something for everyone. And with live streaming of these events, you'll never miss a beat of the island's pulse. With a user-friendly interface, high-definition streaming, and the ability to watch on any device, WACK.tv brings the best of Trinbago culture straight to your screens. So join the millions of satisfied viewers already hooked on WACK.tv. Log in, subscribe, and start streaming today.
Tell me friends and family, I'm coming. Hey, boy, the suitcase pack tight. As soon as the plane touch down, we pumping. And if you hear them, welcome, welcome, welcome to the land of Calypso. I see that you touched down, well done, well done. I hope that you're more than fit and ready, cause it's real rum, real vibe. Soon as I touch the first party, it's shell down. I'm fetting until I'm falling down. I will never miss a next carnival again. Tell them I will never miss a next carnival again. Until the good Lord take me, I'll be jumping up in a party. I'll be on the road with family. I'll be having the time of my life. Until the good Lord take me. Hey, it's carnival. It's bacchanal. Yeah, this is the life. Tell the boss I say I'm coming in. Boy, me and the team out and back tonight. And anyway that we touch, it mash up, fine. Hey, fine. Boy, and if you hear them, welcome to the land of Calypso. I see that you touched down, well done. I hope that you're more than fit and ready, cause it's real rum, real vibe. Soon as I touch the first party, it's shell down. I'm fetting until I'm falling down. I will never miss a next carnival again. Never. Hey, tell them I will never miss a next carnival again. Hey, until time of my life, until the good Lord take me. Hey, it's carnival.
Everybody in this party, yeah. Put hands on us. Father bless everybody in this party, yeah. Watch over us. In we going out and we coming in. I say whoa. Put hands on us. I say whoa. Watch over us. I say whoa. Don't make another move till we blast this party. Cause I come here with the intention to get on bad. Boy, to get on mad and crazy inside of this party. Full intention to get on mad. Mad, hey, to get on mad and crazy inside of this party. Lay hands up cause I'm feeling blessed. I'm blessed. I'm celebrating the fact that I'm blessed. I'm blessed. We start meeting, cause we turn up the vibes, yeah. A little go is on my set. Get nice, yeah. Then we listen to right, yeah. This is the Fataki, yeah. I shine like a glare, with my hands in the air. Father bless everybody in this
Why can't I leave you alone?
And here we are at the Jean-Pierre Complex in Port of Spain, the mecca of the steel pan, which is Trinidad and Tobago. And we're delighted that you can join us for this, the finals for the orchestras for the National Steel Band Music Festival 2024. The theme is Canopium Amoris, Canopy of Love, and that's what we have here at the Jean-Pierre Complex. Lots of love for the pan, lots of love for country, and soon we will be starting the performances. As you know, we have the test piece, the tune of choice. With me, I am delighted to introduce to our audience Michelle Darridge, who is a musician, a music educator, and although she does adjudicate for Pan Trinbago, that's not her role today. She's got another one, which is just as important, to bring you expert analysis and commentary for this, the National Steel Band Music Festival. We have had, of course, the single pan finals. We've had the ensemble finals, and congratulations to all, and in particular to the winners. So today, what are we looking forward to, Michelle?
Wow. First of all, Sharon, it's quite a pleasure to be here. It's my first time on camera doing this, so I'm quite excited. nervous nevertheless, but I know I'm in expert hands.
You are.
So I trust you to carry me like a baby. But Sharon, we're in for quite a treat. If you have been watching the first two legs of the other legs of the competition, the single pan and the ensemble categories, wow, the music was simply out of this world. And so much has been revealed over those sessions. So I'm really looking forward to tonight because it's the bigger guns. They've all been big guns, but it's the bigger guns on tonight. Our large bands, our orchestras, and we're in for a treat. If you love music, this is the place to be.
Well, when we talk about music and we talk about the limitations perhaps of, say, the single pan as opposed to the conventional large orchestra, I think we'll be looking forward to hearing more parts, perhaps.
Yes, because the conventional pans, of course, have a wider range and, of course, more notes. Then you're going to hear a lot more parts, inner parts than just melody, bass, and maybe, you know, one or two little things happening. It's going to be quite complex tonight.
Well, that's in the complex, so that's great.
Yes.
I'm looking at the judges, and we will be sharing, of course, that information with you. But Dr. Eugene Novotny, that name stands out because he is the foreign judge. But he has been associated with Pan and competition in Trinidad and Tobago for many, many years. So, you know, it's something I've always said is a good thing, that we have the foreign judges bringing perhaps their eye for what they see with their symphony music, their orchestras, but yet they learn that our culture does influence the way we play and the way we interpret or adapt classical music.
Yes, Sharon, I really applaud Pan Trinbago for mixing the foreign judges, only two, with our local judges for the final leg. And, you know, the judges have had a chance to meet each other before tonight's competition. And, I mean, the meeting, I've been part of the single pan judging. So it was quite an eye-opener. It was quite a learning experience to sit with them and listen and learn even more about the analysis of the music and what we're looking for, and for us to teach them some of what we're doing, even though they have been involved in Pan in their countries.
And you said it so right, Michelle, because we talk about transference of knowledge, not just with industry, but also cultural as well. So let's tell our viewers, the judges that we have. Again, very interesting because it's Adriana Maria Achaiba.
Yes, Adriana is from South,
Is from South.
a well-known South
Steve
Pan
Achaiba.
family. Steve Achaiba's very talented daughter.
Yeah, I remember her at about, I think, 6 when Steve brought her to my studio at the time and said, you know, she's a prodigy. And so indeed it proved that she has that affinity for the pan. And now she's all grown up and she's an adjudicator for these finals.
I think for both she and Dr. Louis Nurse, this is actually their maiden voyage with Pan Trinbago in the adjudicating realm.
I see. All right. So we have Adriana Achaiba. We have
Dr. Roger Henry from UTT.
Dr. Roger J. Henry. Again, such talent. One of our locals who has, who could stand on any stage worldwide. We have Mr. Richard Pear, who is a fixture, really, when it comes to Pan, not just for finals for the Steel Band Music Festival, but also, of course, for Panorama. We have Dr. Louis Nurse, who was with me for the past 2 finals. And for those of you who were with us, and once again, thank you so much for being with us. You'd recognize that Dr. Nurse has a very unique way of looking at things and explaining things and interpreting things. And today he is an adjudicator for the orchestras. Then we also have another one of the foreign judges, I believe.
Yes, Dr. Larry Snyder.
Dr. Larry Snyder, and then, of course, as I mentioned,
Dr. Eugene Novotny.
So both of them are familiar, I believe, with Trinidad and Tobago, especially Eugene Novotny, because, as I say, no stranger to us and to the Pan, and we're delighted to have them all. Let's talk a little bit about the bands. We'll just give you a quick rundown of the bands that will be performing tonight.
Yes.
Remember, they will be playing Tune of Choice. The tune of choice is usually the classical piece, but as we've seen with others in this competition before for single pan and ensemble, we have own compositions.
Yes,
Isn't
and
that something?
has been the eye-opener this round,
That's been the
Sharon.
eye-opener.
There have been some fantastic own compositions. I mean, and it's beautiful that it's not just anymore taking a tried and true classic from both Mozart and Beethoven and adapting it for the pan. It's music being written for the pan.
For the pan. In a classical style.
Yes. And as a result of this competition, all those pieces are now scored. You know, we will look at Panorama and say, wow, such great music coming out of the bands, but where can I get a score for it? These pieces have been scored. And I know Pan Notation under Dr. Mia Gormady and her team have also been scoring music.
We have to thank Mark Loquan, who really was the first that I was aware of, who recognized the importance and ensured that we would have these transcriptions, the scores, and you can access online. So whether you're in Japan or if you're in Sweden or if you're Antarctica, once you can get online, you can get those scores for Pan.
Yes.
We also have a number of people who will be talking about the test piece. As you would know, for the festival, we've had test piece for different test pieces, but all written and sung by David Rudder. Of course, he's had co-writers for some of those songs, but the theme, the uniform theme, is Rudder, and the test piece is Dedication.
Yes.
Your thoughts on that particular piece?
I found it really apt too, mainly because of the name and the occasion and the fact too that we just proclaimed the steel band as our national instrument.
It was proclaimed.
Dedication is perfect.
And we also got the geographical indication for the pans, so that means that we can stamp on our pans, made in Trinidad and Tobago, the patent is there, and therefore folks who would recognize that this is the home, this is the birthplace of the steel pan. If you're seeing a range of steel pans somewhere, in a store somewhere, you know that once you see the one that's got made in Trinidad and Tobago stamped on it, recognize that indeed it was made in Trinidad and Tobago. So I think we've got this forward movement in terms of the pan, and let's hope that that continues. So we have tune of choice, we have test piece. I believe we will have best dressed as well.
Yes, there's a trophy for that this time too.
And again, for the past few finals on your screens, you would have seen the beauty that these panists have put into their work to present themselves with lovely outfits. So once again, congratulations to all those who have won Best Dressed, and of course it's complementing the music. So excellence in pan, steel pan excellence, and then we also have, it adds, I think, to that ambiance, the feel of this steel band music festival, when you have, I think it's something that, you know, we've been seeing it in Panorama as well. People, of course, have their outfits, everybody with their tees or their polos or whatever, shirts, whatever they've chosen. But for this one, again, you'd notice there's a bit more formality. And I think we should mention to our viewers, Michelle, that it's been said that the music festival perhaps is different from Panorama in the sense that the skill of the panist is perhaps more greatly emphasized here. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I will agree with that. Because while music is music wherever it is, while music is music wherever it is, to play for the festival takes a more meticulous approach, right? For Panorama, yes, you've got dynamics, you've got the louds and the softs, but we tend to associate Panorama with certain crack shots. People who come and just learn off a melody like that. This is far different. And I must applaud our pan men and women for not even using scores while they're playing, which is really, really puts them above the rest. But still, the skill it takes to execute the music at this level, it's a lot more taxing than just Panorama.
And of course, we would know that the scores are given to the judges, so you can't decide that you're going off score.
Not at all.
And pushing in a little something.
Because 30 points are going towards musical accuracy.
And as you say that, perhaps you could just mention some of the other things that the adjudicators will be looking for.
Be glad to. So our adjudicators are looking, as I said, accuracy of score, that gets 30 points, where the performers have to perform this piece in accordance with what's written on the score. So you can't veer off from what's there. I know that some of the bands would have played one version in the prelims, but trust me, they submitted a new score for tonight if they added anything or changed it. The second category will be musical communication, also 30 points. And this is, they have to now interpret the work by conveying the necessary emotions, the phrasings, the expressions, as intended by the composer and or the arranger. Then 20 points go for execution. Now this is exhibiting the technical proficiency in performing the music with precision and mastery.
No tapping the sides of the pan with your sticks.
No, they might do that because it might have been
It might have been written in, but
when you're
in terms
hitting
of
the
the
note,
notes.
and maybe if you have fast runs, you don't hit outside the note. You have to hit in the belly of the note itself, you know? And of course, the kind of rubber you use, if your stick wasn't good enough, all sorts of things. And then our last category for 10 points will be quality of sound. And of course, how well tuned your instruments are and being able to balance the sound of the instruments as well as the percussion.
When you talk about the instruments, I think, well, perhaps not in this particular case because it is the finals, but I know some bands have had a bit of a problem because it costs money to get great tuners, to have your pans tuned to the best that they can be. And some bands have mentioned the fact that, you know, perhaps the pans were not tuned to the excellence that they would have wanted, but they still were able to reach a standard that the music was able to flow, it was able to come across, and it wasn't discordant in any way.
Okay. Well,
So-
yes.
So that's something. We also have to thank, of course, our sponsors for this National Steel Band Music Festival. It is under the auspices of the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley. So again, there are those with the vision and those with the wherewithal who are helping with staging something like this, the National Steel Band Music Festival 2024. And we should be starting in a short while. We have had a bit of a delay, and we apologize for that, but we've had some really rainy weather today. I'm not saying that that's necessarily any reason for it, but whatever the reason, we should be starting shortly with this, the finals for orchestras under the theme Canopium Amoris. And now I mean, Latin, I think maybe 1% of our population, if so much. But it fits in so nicely with the fact that there's a lot of classical pieces. The root of the language is Latin.
Yes.
And, you know, we can guess if somebody had said Canopium Amoris to me, I mightn't have gotten the Canopium, but I might have. And the Amoris, again, love. And that's what it is tonight. It's a lot of love. It's love for the pan. It's love for country. It's love for community, because we will be talking a bit more as we get into the broadcast and into the performances about where the bands are from, some of the things that have shaped those bands, their struggles, and there have been many struggles. For those who are not familiar with the history of the steel pan, again, you can go online, you'll see a lot about it. But for those of us who live it and have lived it, for example, my community in Santa Cruz, if I'm walking into the village, I'll be hearing pan because there is a pan yard that's well kept. It's a sanctuary, it's a safe spot for people, and they're always practicing something, and which is good. Not all communities have it, but again, it's been spoken for many, many years. I remember Lloyd Best, one of our great thinkers, talking about that the pan yard is a microcosm of society and can, of course, become a place where we learn new things, we do new things, we reinvent things, we invent things, and it is a community, from the cleaner to the cook to the person who comes in to help look at the children if their parents have no babysitters and, you know, they need to play. And, you know, it's a whole love. It's just a one love. It's a big love. And we are under the canopy of love in this, the National Steel Band Music Festival. So we can maybe go through just some of the pieces that people are going to be playing. Sure. Our first band is Court Sound Specialists of Laventille, and their tune of choice is Star Wars Episode 7. Now I have to say, I'm looking forward to this because sometimes when you think of music, classical music, You think, as you say, of the
Beethoven and
Shostakovich,
Mozart,
the
etc.
Mozart, the Beethoven. But we have, you know, John Williams, who I love as a composer. I'm not sure if he's still with us, but I love his music. And Star Wars was his thing. He's done music for so many movie scores. So he's going to be doing, sound specialist, that is, will be doing the Star Wars Episode 7. I don't know, there's so many episodes of Star Wars. I can't pull out from which one of it. But anyway, the Jedi Steps.
And finale.
And finale. So I would guess that's, you know, that's one with the newer ones. You know, the newer actors, I should say, when there was a lot more inclusion in the movie score. But that's something else. That's another story. So we have our first band that you'll be hearing, the music of John Williams, adapted, however, by Kareem Brown and Sion Gomez. Again, these are names you would have heard, people you would have seen in Panorama on stage with their bands, Sion, Kareem, but they're going to be here, if not conducting, and Kareem will be conducting for the first one. But we're about ready to start. We can hear the MC talking about the protocols to be observed before we start, and that of course is that the Prime Minister of the country, Trinidad and Tobago, will be coming soon, and therefore as soon as he enters into this arena. Now this arena, Michelle, I remember from the 80s when I used to come and listen, broadcast Steel Band Music Festival right here. They used to set up different to how they've done it now.
Yes, the bands used to be
They
in
used
the
to be
court,
flat,
and then all the patrons would be in the complex seats.
We'd be in the seats, or the judges would move.
Yes, from
in
band
front,
to
from
band,
band
because
to
all
band.
the bands were stationary.
They were all stationary. And I remember the excitement when you had bands bringing in these instruments that we don't normally see with the steel pan, with the steel bands. Things like the timpani.
Yes, the gong,
the chimes, xylophone. You know, it was a time of wonder, I think, when people came here. I remember, of course, the 1812 Overture.
Oh my gosh, that is embedded in my mind.
It is, I think, with most
yes.
of us. Most of us. Well, you were maybe a child. I wasn't so much a child, but we won't go there. But it was a case of when you heard these instruments, which you would normally see on your television sets with the Philharmonic orchestras, the great ones, global ones, worldwide, and then you came to the stadium and you heard the pan and you heard these conventional instruments. And, I mean, you just lost your breath. You know, they were played, and everybody was in their suits who decided to go with tuxedos, you know, the conductors, Prospect, of course, with his baton.
Gosh.
You know, the
and
memories.
this is a steel coat.
Yes, yes. So the memories in this particular venue are many, and they're great, they're very good. Of course, it is an outdoor venue, so we will be looking at just how that affects the thing today. We've all got tents, they're all covered, and I don't expect anybody to get wet if we do indeed get another shower, because we have had showers today, and fingers crossed we will be having no showers, or if any, it'll be a light drizzle that won't affect things because the pans are on the stage this time around. So they're well covered, and any minute now we will be having the call to stand, if you can, for the national anthem, and then we'll be getting into the usual, the invocation, the prayer, and then maybe a few opening remarks, welcome remarks, and then we'll be into the sweet sound of sea. So we talked about the first band, and that's Court Sound Specialists of Laventil. It's one of 10 bands, I believe.
10 bands, 20 pieces of music.
20 pieces of music.
We're in for a full night.
Yes, indeed we are. So, and one that will be enjoyable every moment.
Yes.
So we're very thankful that you're with us on this particular broadcast, and you're in for a treat, as Michelle said. Michelle Dowrich, who is my co-host tonight, and she is a musician and music educator and adjudicator too for PAN. So we'll be able to really go into some of the nuances that you may have missed, or if you're new to it, the nuances that you'll learn for the first time. So now we're going to cross stateside.
Well timed.
Stand if you're not standing already. for the playing of the national anthem of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, done by steel pan musician and Midco ambassador Kai Alcantara. Please remain standing as we invite Ms. Ursuline Blackett, Vice Chairman of the South Central Region, Pan-Trinbago, to say a prayer.
Pleasant good evening to all. Let us pray. Almighty God and Father, we praise and glorify your name as with grateful hearts we embark on another leg of this festival, showcasing the versatility of this our national instrument and the excellent talent and skills of all who are involved. Loving Father, we thank you for the continued outpouring of your blessings on this National Steel Band Music Festival. And we pray that tonight's event will be just as successful and enjoyable as the previous finals. We thank you, dear Lord, for all gathered here this evening, supporting and encouraging the efforts made by Pan-Trinbago. We thank our Honorable Prime Minister, our Line Minister, Pan-Trinbago executive and staff, and all the other stakeholders involved, ensuring that an excellent time will be experienced by all. And when the curtains come down, bringing an end to this festival, we pray, dear Lord, that all patrons will leave this venue filled with a joy that only Pan could bring, having been a part of this marvelous event. Father, let us give our contentment and joy, positive energies prevail here this evening. Let no incident or accident mar this celebration. We ask this in no other name, but in the name of Jesus Christ, your Son and our Savior. Amen.
Thank you very much. You may have your seats, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor to be here this evening. I would like to welcome you to the Trinidad and Tobago National Steel Band Music Festival 2024. Steel Pan is more beautiful. Canopium Amoris, a canopy of love. The orchestra band's finals. And if you are happy to be here, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. You know, one of the main evidence of great leadership is the team understanding the vision and the enthusiasm and dedication towards the vision. And since Madam President has taken the helm of Pan-Trinbago, there's evidence of the progression of our steel pan, our national instrument. So with that being said, I would like to call to the podium the President of Pan Trinbago, Mrs. Beverly Ramsey Moore, to deliver her remarks.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Let me acknowledge the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Senator the Honorable Randall Mitchell, Minister of Tourism, Culture and the Arts, and other members of Cabinet, members of the House of Representatives and members of the Senate, heads of mission and members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the National Executive of Pan Trinbago, permanent secretaries, chief executive officers, and representatives of corporate sponsors, and I want to single out this evening the chairman of the board of the Sports and Culture Fund in the Office of the Prime Minister, Mrs. Deborah Coyat Patton, specially invited guests, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me welcome all of you on behalf of Pan Trinbago. The reward for hard work is more work. And that's a quote from my in-law, leader of government business, my in-law, Camille Robinson Regis. Why did she say that? Immediately after Carnival, she called me to talk about the wonderful works that we have done during the Carnival period. And I said, I just had a conversation with the Prime Minister, and he has asked that Pan Trinbago bring back the classicals. And I said, whoa, imagine we're now coming out of Carnival. And then she said, the reward for good work is more work. The reward for hard work is more work. And so this evening, I am extremely pleased to tell you that for this National Steel Band Music Festival, Pan Trinbago is now about to bring the curtains down on our season of festival with our orchestra category. I want to thank all of you who have taken time off to support us, even from the single pan category at Queen's Hall. That was a magnificent show. And then we had the ensemble category. That was awesome. Tonight, you are going to see greatness as our orchestras will demonstrate as they perform their tune of choice, and of course, a test piece by David Rudder called Dedication. One of the most significant aspects of this Steel Band Music Festival is its ability to enhance the technical proficiency of individual pan players. The festival's rigorous structure and high standards push musicians to reach new heights in the steel band fraternity. And I just want to share with you a comment by one of our steel pan players, a young lady by the name of Shilleen Baines. I took this off her Facebook page. She said, "Festival is not just a competition, it's an experience." And after many years where we did not have the festival, introducing this festival to a new group of young people, I can tell you that it is totally different from a panorama vibe. It is one where there is the skills of the players, it is one where concentration is extremely high, and it is one that develops our players and prepare them for life. So we are extremely grateful for that. We want to thank all our sponsors. We want to thank Queen's Hall. We want to thank our line ministry, Senator the Honorable Randall Mitchell, for being there with us. As you know, we have said in Pan Trinbago, there is no season for Pan. And since I've became president, I want to tell you that we have been having Pan all the time, because Pan is happy music, Pan is community development, Pan is youth development, Pan is social development, and that is why we speak prosperity in Pan. We spoke it and it came into being. And if you would have observed over the last few weeks, several things have been happening. We must prosper in all things. A number of announcements have been made. We've had a World Steel Pan Festival. We've, of course, had World Steel Pan Day as declared by the United Nations. And now, Trinidad and Tobago formally declared the birthplace of Pan by the geographical indication that we have received after applying for that. Pan Trinbago would have applied through the World Intellectual Property Office and, of course, through our local office here in Trinidad and Tobago. So things are happening. We remember that song and we quote it so well, Mighty Duke, Pan in your rukung kutung kung. And you would hear it tonight and you're going to have to take it tonight. So God bless you as we move on. Pan is spirit and Pan will never die.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Put your hands together for the President of Pan Trinbago, Mrs. Beverly Ramsey Moore. Nice. So it's no secret that our Prime Minister is in love with steel pan and steel pan music. It's no secret. And it gives me great honor to welcome the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, to share some remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, can we stand and put your hands together for the Prime Minister?
Thank you very much, our distinguished MC. Good evening, fellow citizens, visitors all. Have no fear. It will not be a convention speech or a political speech for that matter. It will simply be a thank you for coming out and being with us here as a fraction of the national community on this location, but part of a larger population of Trinidad and Tobago in celebration of the sounds of our national instrument. Ladies and gentlemen, from time to time in recent days and weeks, you would have heard and seen certain things happening. There's some element of planning that went with it and some element of happenstance. We, this year, have celebrated a number of milestones around this instrument and around the efforts of making a claim and branding the steel pan as distinctly Trinidad and Tobago. And for that, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think we should be ashamed or we should be discombobulated, meaning we don't have to fight over that. We simply have to be Trinidad and Tobago. It's not the only thing that makes us Trinidad and Tobago, but it's only Trinidad and Tobago that could claim the pan as ours, and we must do so lustily. Ladies and gentlemen, in this very place, I recall at an earlier time the sweet, harmonious chords of the steel pan playing classical music as distinct from panorama music. And we used to enjoy that in a way that a nation should enjoy its culture, because culture is there not only to mark you, but to entertain you, to defend you, to define you. And steel pan music describes the people of Trinidad and Tobago, whether you play the pan or not. I belong to a steel band. I've received an award in that band for being there for over 50 years. But I can't play a note to save my life. But I consider myself a pan man. Ladies and gentlemen, so much so that maybe the fraternity has no fear of my dexterity on the pan, that I'm at home in Invaders, I'm at home in All Stars, and I used to be at home in Fontclair. Ladies and gentlemen, the steel pan is worth our attention and it's worth defending. The government of Trinidad and Tobago at an earlier time set out to identify and to secure a patent arrangement for the pan as a product on the international market scene. Sometime later on, maybe one day the minister will give you a little reminder of what went on there, what goes on there, what it costs, and what it means. But in recent times, we were able to attract the attention of the world in no other place but at the United Nations, where every country of the world has a place and a space and a voice. And when we had a motion put to the floor at the United Nations asking the world's population to designate and identify and associate with World Steel Band Day, it was accepted without a single dissenting voice in the world. And if there's anything that attaches us and binds us to those of this land who have gone abroad, you knock a pan anywhere in Germany or in Canada or New York, and you know immediately who is Trinidadian, who is Tobagonian, and who owns and represents the steel band and all that is good about music in the world. For a little tiny nation to be able to claim the creation of a musical instrument of any kind, and for that instrument to be as melodious and orchestral as the steel band, let us understand that Australia, a nation, is a continent. You know what they claim? They claim the didgeridoo, and it's just blowing, it goes hoo, hoo, hoo. That is their national musical instrument, and they claim it with both arms. Because if you hear a didgeridoo, if you hear the sound of a didgeridoo, you know it's Australian, and nobody else in the world could claim it. And this steel pan, one of these days, will go somewhere and do something that make all of you and all of us proud. And let me give you an example of that. One of these days, some filmmaker in Hollywood or New York will have a friend or an associate who will write a score for a movie, and that score would be played by a steel orchestra, and only then maybe will the people of Trinidad and Tobago on that day get up and say, that is ours. But we don't have to wait until that happens to identify, to own, and to enjoy the steel pan. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I represent a government that supports this initiative and these initiatives, not because we want to score a point for ourselves, but we want to score a point for the nation. And we have done a number of things in support of Pan Trinbago. And I want to point out to you all why we should be thankful for the current executive of Pan Trinbago and be grateful for their successful effort. Because not too long ago, there was nothing but bacchanal in Pan Trinbago and lack of accountability. In recent times, the Pan Trinbago executive has risen to the occasion, doing what the nation expects the executive of Pan Trinbago to do, which is to promote, support, and defend the steel pan. And once that is happening, it is my belief that every government, any government in Trinidad and Tobago will support the efforts that are made at Pan Trinbago to advance and promote the steel pan as the musical instrument of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. It does not say that other instruments are not good or that they should not be played. It does not say that if you know the pan or you identify the pan as ours, that that is the limit of our exposure, of our energies, of our presentations in music. No. It is just our contribution to the wide spectrum. Because I have heard the pan played with piano alongside the pianist. I have heard the pan played with saxophonists. I have heard the pan played alongside the clarinet, and I can tell you, we're not second in any of those situations. And if you have had the opportunity, as I have had, to have been here in the earlier days to enjoy the pan playing the classics, you would understand why I would have reminisced and would have asked Pan Trinbago to see whether we could recreate those moments again. And thankfully, Pan Trinbago has said, yes, we can. And tonight we are here to enjoy what we used to enjoy. And I hope that as we celebrate this now on the eve of an independence season, and as we go into independence in a couple of weekends to come, that we take this as part of our independence celebration as the red, white, and black adorns this venue. And ladies and gentlemen, recently I made an announcement of the government's intention to replace the caricatures of Columbus's ships on our coat of arms with the steel pan. And not surprisingly, it generated a plethora of conversations, not all of it good. But I'm sure that at the end of the day, like independence, like other things that we didn't absorb at their birth, the pan on the national coat of arms will be a symbol of honor for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And we are not stopping there. For those of you who are not aware of it, a government of Trinidad and Tobago in attempting to promote and assist Pan Trinbago in the management of pan affairs had given the steel pan movement a plot of land out in the east just south of Trin City for a Pan Trinbago headquarters and possibly a business site. Pan Trinbago stepped out haltingly to do that, and I dare say it got not only stuck in the mud, but it literally became a national eyesore. Not too long ago, a very distinguished Indian firm, very deeply involved in cricket, and wanting to get involved to support West Indies cricket and their own venture, offered to partner with the government to create on that site a cricket academy, as now exists in Mumbai, in Maharashtra, in India. The government agreed to accept the proposal, and the government's contribution to that cricket academy, which we hope will come to fruition in the not too distant future, was to put in the land as requested. But to do so, we had to talk to Pan Trinbago and get them to agree to do an exchange where the government will get back that piece of land in that location, get involved with the cricket academy there, and do something for Pan Trinbago elsewhere. I can tell you, the executive of Pan Trinbago drives a hard bargain. We eventually agreed by negotiation between Pan Trinbago and the various government entities to give Pan Trinbago in return for the property out in the east, the site which is now the old post office, the abandoned old post office here in Port of Spain, where the mapping section exists in that old building which has been engineeringly condemned on Wrightson Road. We are aiming to move the mapping section out to the east into a better location, secure and more user-friendly and fit for purpose. And on this site which Pan Trinbago will now have, the government has agreed not to leave Pan Trinbago on a site or in ownership of an abandoned, condemned building. But as Minister for UDCOT, I was able to go to the Cabinet and get Cabinet's agreement. The last agreement was had a couple of weeks ago or thereabouts, where today I can tell you that the government and Pan Trinbago have agreed to a design for a headquarters building worthy of its location in the city of Port of Spain on Wrightson Road on the old post office site. And very soon, when you see the architect's rendering of what that building would look like, I am guaranteeing you that you will be proud, because like everything else, it will look somewhere like a pan. And in the city of Port of Spain, the only city in the world that will have a building like that, Pan Trinbago and the government will share that building with Pan Trinbago using its share of the building to support its financial ventures and be in a location worthy of the home where steel band was invented. And that, I think, is worthy of a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't come here tonight to make a speech. That is my speech. Thanks for coming and joining me. I am happy to be here with you, and let us enjoy the melodious sounds of the musical instrument of people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Put your hands together one more time for the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, indeed. All right, so we are ready. 10 steel bands is going to be vying for the title of champion, orchestra champion. Who's going to come out victorious? Well, we just have to wait and see. So tonight I would like to highlight our adjudicators. So as soon as I call a name, can I have a lifting of the hand, please? Miss Adriana Maria Achaiba, Dr. Roger Henry, Mr. Richard Pear, Dr. Louis Nurse, Dr. Larry Snyder, and Dr. Eugene Novotny. Put your hands together for our judges, ladies and gentlemen, yes? And just a note, if you have family, friends abroad, and they're not here, of course, they can still view the action. You can tell them to log on to WACK TV, pay-per-view, and it's only $30 US, okay? So you can just send them a message right now and say, listen, don't miss it out, because it's going to be spectacular. So we are ready for the first steel band on stage. Now, as you know, every steel band will be doing the test piece entitled Dedication by David Rudder, composed by David Rudder and Pelham Goddard, and arranged by Kendall Williams. So we're going to have the test piece first, as usual, and then we're going to have the tune of choice. So as you see behind me, there are already 3 steel bands set up already. So we're going to have the first three doing their performance. Then we're going to have a short break, and then we're going to remove those steel pans and have another 3 come on. And soon enough, we will be at the end of our competition, and we will crown the orchestra steel band champion. First up tonight, Courts Sound Specialist of Laventille. Specialists, as the band is affectionately called, is indeed a special band, and its members genuine specialists at their trade. The band's growth over the years has been nothing less than phenomenal. It is the only band to have moved from the traditional single pan category to conventional and successfully compete in that category by winning a major panorama competition. In 1992, Quartz Furnishings Trinidad Limited sponsored the band. In June of 2005, Sound Specialists of Laventille placed fourth in the World Steel Band Music Festival at Madison Square Garden, Manhattan in New York, USA. Ladies and gentlemen, to perform their test piece tonight, Dedication by David Rudder, can we give a warm welcome to Quartz Sound Specialists of Laventille? Their test piece was adapted and arranged by Sion Gomez. Conductor, Kareem Brown. So thankfully we have good weather, so we have moved the judges closer to the stage. So can we dim the lights a little bit, please? They are saying that the lights is a bit too bright. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The test piece from chord sound specialists of Laventille. So what will happen in between the test piece and tune of choice? We will allow the judges to tabulate their scores. And in the meantime...
You gave us the inspiration to be first. We gave you the solutions that put you first. You trusted us with your vision. We paved the way with innovation. You walked with us side by side, and we continued to serve you with pride. First Citizens is proud of everything we've achieved together. We made dreams a reality, shaped success stories, and painted brighter futures. And together, we'll accomplish so much more. First Citizens, we put you first.
Welcome to the vibrant and colorful Caribbean paradise of Trinidad and Tobago, where the culture is as lively as the people. And when it comes to streaming Trinbago entertainment, there is no better platform than WACK.tv, with a vast selection of local music genres like conscious and humorous calypsos, soca, parang, and many more. WACK.tv's.
And so we're back with the analysis and color commentary for that, the first performance of the test piece, Dedication, Rudder's Dedication, as done by the chord sound specialist of Laventille. So I am Sharon Pitt, together with Michelle Darridge, who is the woman who can analyze or give her impressions of this, the first performance for the evening in this, the National Steel Band Music Festival finals for orchestras, chord sound specialist. Michelle, your thoughts?
Well, Sharon, first off, I want to say any band playing in first position is a tall order. There is so much to just settle yourself to get ready for. But I think chord sound specialists of Laventille handle themselves like the pros that they are. They took this piece at a really good tempo. It wasn't too fast, yes, it wasn't too slow. It was really an appropriate tempo, I think. Their melody was always prominent, you know. I guess because I'm a singer, I always look, especially in my adjudication, I pay a lot of attention to the melody line, because the melody line has to stand out in whatever ensemble, whatever orchestra is doing the music. But their melody was always very prominent. I found they worked the dynamics really well. This particular arrangement is full of changes in dynamics as well as the tempo. But chords handled that too really well. Notice they had the use of, I believe it was a xylophone that just tinkled, that brought that melody out a little brighter at that point. What I want to mention though, especially the arrangement itself, and this is nothing to chords but to the arranger, is that I found it was quite appropriate. There was a part in the song just after the verse came in, where if you follow the words when you're about to say like 10,000 flowers bloom, the piece just dipped. The mood changed and the dynamic change that came in there. You actually felt like the pan was about to blossom, was about to bloom. I found that so poignant at that point. Also, the end of this piece is quite a surprising bit for me, because we are accustomed with pan music to end on such a high and a loud note, but this one just sat quietly, just faded away in the end, just peacefully. I would love to talk to the arranger to find out what was his thought process behind this.
Well, I think it's Kendall, is it? Yes.
Yes, I think it's Kendall Williams.
It is Kendall Williams who arranged for this National Steel Band Music Festival this particular test piece. We had different arrangers for the test piece for each category.
Yes.
So in this one, for Dedication, which is a song which was composed by Dr. Pelham Goddard and
David Rudder.
I was trying to remember if he's also doctor. He has an honorary doctorate.
Yes, he does.
So for this piece, so Kendall Williams, Michelle was pointing out that interesting, different, you know, and at the end he caught me by surprise as well, you know, so, you know, that soft ending there for...
Yes, it just faded away very quietly. You know, I'm wondering what was supposed to happen. Why did he end it? I don't want to say it felt anticlimactic, but we're not accustomed to pan music ending so quietly.
And that's the beauty of the music festival, that there's so many surprises, there's so many interpretations, so much adaptation. So what's happening right now is that the adjudicators are dealing with their scores. As you would have gathered, they will be moving in front of the different bands. The stage setup is rather interesting. So just like with the music festivals of days gone by, the judges moved, but this time they don't have to move as far as they did in those days, because in those days we had the whole floor of the complex with bands positioned, so there would be again at least 10 bands also, maybe more, and each little grouping of adjudicators had to move to the position of those bands. So this one's a lot easier. 3 bands on the stage at a time. We have 10 bands that will perform in the orchestras category for this, the finals. So we have a court sound specialist waiting now for the judges to give the nod for them to get into their tune of choice. In the interim, just like with the single pan and with the ensemble pan, we have a soloist, one of many talented soloists, and this time we have Richard Berraud. Yes, I remember.
Richard had his genesis in Golden Hands, and he now plays for the NSSO, the National Steel Symphony Orchestra.
Again, which shows the progression of the youth, especially these talented young people. So I think they're ready for the tune of choice, which, as I say, is the Star Wars Episode 7, the Jedi Steps, and finale. So let's cross over to Ken Simmons, the MC, to hear more about this.
Composed by John Williams, adapted and arranged by Kareem Brown and Sion Gomez, conducted by Kareem Brown. Ladies and gentlemen, to do their tune of choice this evening, can we give a warm welcome for band number 1, Court Sound Specialists of Laventille. Steel band number 1, ladies and gentlemen, chord sound specialists of Laventille. Their tune of choice, Star Wars.
Well, that was a fantastic performance from the chord sound specialists of Laventille Steel Orchestra with that Star Wars 7, Jedi Steps and finale. And as we said earlier on, it was adapted by Kareem Brown and Sion Gomez. Original composition, of course, the fantastic American composer John Towner Williams, who is a man who scored over 100 movies and one of the most accomplished and successful composers of all time in the US. And that translates, of course, to worldwide, because we've all watched Star Wars. I would say a lot of people, millions of people, know the Star Wars brand, know the Star Wars music. And one way, of course, that you can describe this is majestic, as indeed is most of his pieces. So Michelle Dowrich is with me to give her thoughts on this particular performance by chord sound specialists of Laventille.
You know something, Sharon? I think John Williams needed to hear this vision, because I felt as if we were in the movie and this would have replaced the traditional orchestra hands down.
The steps, and you heard the steps.
Yes, yes, very powerful indeed. I must admit, I've never been a Star Wars fan, but this music tonight was just
Could make
fantastic.
you a fan. I bet
yes,
you go
it
and
can.
look
Of
at.
course, I'm going to look for the movie. Yes, my sons watched it. So, chord song specialist again, very controlled playing here tonight. The beginning was soft. Yes, there was a little rise from the mezzo piano to the mezzo forte a bit, but I admired the control in the legato playing that happened probably throughout this piece. But definitely the opening was, you know, very stark. Again, attention to detail was on point. You know, the dynamics, the creation of the mood, the different changes in the tempo. As I said, John Williams could just take out the orchestra in the original film and put in the chord sound specialist, hands down, right? I must say the beauty of this festival, though, lies in the fact that the conductor is in front of the band, and with all this myriad of changes and the interpretation needed for these pieces, especially like this one that just went, the players have to watch the conductor. And that's the beauty too of not playing with a score in front of you that you're forever reading while you play. So it's really wonderful to watch the players, everybody, their hands are in their pants. So you need to know your part really well. Know your instrument literally. It's at the tip of your fingers, or as Louis would have said, it's the extension of the arm, right, into the instrument.
Yes.
But they know their instrument so well that while they're playing, their eyes are on their conductor, which in singing we are told to do. You have to watch your conductor, otherwise you're going to miss something. You know, so I looked at that, and the rapport, the relationship between the conductor and the players was really on point too, very good. I enjoyed every bit of this. I'm glad I'm not an adjudicator tonight.
And of course,
I must say,
Kareem came out with his cape.
yes, he came out in his black and gold Jedi cape, so you know tonight is the night you're going to see something way different from the prelims. But what do you think about the costuming of the band?
I think it's wonderful. I mean, you know, it's a Hollywood piece. It's a movie piece. And of course, costuming in movies is a big thing. It's you know, it's just up there. It adds so much to the movie, the costuming. And I think, as you say, if John Williams or whoever's the costumer for Star Wars could see the kind of thought that went into the costuming of our players, they would be mightily impressed.
Yes.
They would be mightily impressed. And I also think that when we talk about Star Wars, the movies, and the Prime Minister touched on it as well. When he talked about Hollywood, he mentioned Hollywood, and that someday he would hope to see a score just done by the steel band. You know, well, this is the first step. So any Hollywood producers out there,
Come to Trinidad. We've got music for you.
We've got music for you, and tonight is a good night. I hope you're viewing on our broadcast, our pay-per-view broadcast, and you're able to see what Trinidad and Tobago can do with things that perhaps you would not have thought could be done with this national instrument of which we are so proud, and as the Prime Minister also said, which is a symbol of honor for our people here in Trinidad and Tobago, and hopefully for Trinidadians and Tobagonians around the world, and Caribbean people around the world, and by extension, of course, the human race.
Yes, and Sharon, I want to continue from where you left off with the Prime Minister's remarks about getting our music into films. It's not just Hollywood. Remember, we have our own film industry here, as well as in the Caribbean, all over the world.
And to be fair, we have been using the steel pan in our local films.
Right. But the point I would like to add, though, is that anyone can now come in listening to the music of this festival, this pan festival this year, from single pan into ensemble and now orchestra. There is a lot of music there, locally, newly composed, that can work. Since the single pan finals, I've been saying, during the prelims, some of those compositions, I can hear them in a movie. I can see this in a film.
Yes,
it's just ripe and ready and waiting for the plucking.
The plucking.
Come on to Trinidad. We've got it here.
Thank you, Michelle. So we're both emphasizing the point that the possibilities for the pan, endless, and not yet even, I would think, tapped 10%.
No.
You know, especially as we take it to the world, and we've got the geographical indications patent now, so hopefully the sky's the limit. In fact, beyond the sky is the limit. So that was band number one with their tune of choice and the test piece. And if you wonder why we're talking about the costuming or the dress of the panelists, it's because there's also an award, a prize for the best dressed. We have 10 orchestras to perform for you this evening, and that was the first. Court Sound Specialists of Laventille doing the test piece, which is Rudder's Dedication, a song composed by Dr. Pelham Goddard and Dr. David Rudder, and arranged for this particular category and this festival by Kendall Williams. So they've done their pieces. Let me remind you of our judges. They are Adriana Maria Chaiba, we have Dr. Roger J. Henry, Mr. Richard Pear, Dr. Louis Snyder, and Dr. Eugene Novotny. Dr. Louis Nurse was with us for the past two finals for single pan and ensemble, and it's with great pleasure that we have Michelle Dowrich with us for this, the orchestras. Michelle is a music educator, a musician, and I should add, she's way too modest about her accomplishments because she's involved with, I know, Parang. I met a group, a very talented group of paranderos and paranderas, and Warish, and they credit Michelle Dowrich. So she does that. Of course, Southerners, we're indebted to her for her contributions to the Southerners Steel Orchestra. And you might guess I too am a Southerner, so well plugged in. My alma mater is where Michelle is or was?
Was. I'm now in curriculum.
Okay, she's in curriculum now in the ministry. But we're indebted to her for her contribution in developing so many young girls and young women as they go forth with the creativity and talent, musically and otherwise too. So thank you, Michelle Dowrich, and Michelle will be here throughout the evening, and it looks like it will be a long evening, but an evening that we will all be enjoying immensely. Let's cross over now to the stage as we welcome band number 2, Cats and Jammers Steel Orchestra.
Excellence. The history of Cats and Jammers is as old as the steel pan movement in Tobago. Formed in the village of Black Rock, Tobago by 12 young men in 1951, the orchestra has evolved into an institution of learning and empowerment and has evoked community pride and belonging, leading to it being branded as the pride of Black Rock. Among the band's several accomplishments are the following. Winners of the Best Tune of Choice, 1967, with a Rupert McCarty arrangement, Fune Kulia, Pan in the 21st Century, 2004 and 2008, National Medium Band Champions 2011, 2012, 2023, and 2024. Performing the test piece, Dedication by David Rudder. Ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome to Cats and Jammers Steel Orchestra. Dr. Sheldon Peters. Cats and Jammers test piece, dedication by David Rudder. Can you put your hands together one more time for Cats and Jammers, ladies and gentlemen? So the judges...
You gave us the inspiration to be first. We gave you the solutions that put you first. You trusted us with your vision. We paved the way with innovation. You walked with us side by side, and we continue to serve you with pride. First Citizens is proud of everything we've achieved together. We made dreams a reality, shaped success stories, and painted brighter futures. And together, we'll accomplish so much more. First Citizens, we put you first.
Welcome to the vibrant and colorful Caribbean paradise of Trinidad and Tobago, where the culture is as lively as the people. And when it comes to streaming Trinbago entertainment, there is no better platform than WACK.tv, with a vast selection of local music genres like conscious and humorous calypsos, soca, parang, and many more. WACK.tv is a go-to destination for all your Trinbago entertainment needs. From the latest soca and calypso music videos rolling the Trinbagonian airwaves to cultural events such as carnival, calypso, soca, and steel pan competitions, WACK.tv has something for everyone. And with live streaming of these events, you'll never miss a beat of the island's pulse. With a user-friendly interface, high-definition streaming, and the ability to watch on any device, WACK.tv brings the best of Trinbago culture straight to your screens. So join the millions of satisfied viewers already hooked on WACK.tv. Log in, subscribe, and start streaming.
Enjoyed the test piece, dedication, as performed by Cats and Jammers, a steel orchestra from Tobago, Black Rock Tobago, and Michelle Dowridge is here to give her impressions of this, always keeping in mind that as an adjudicator herself, she's well aware, she listens with the ear of an adjudicator, and as a singer, as she said. So Michelle, your impressions?
Well, Sharon, Cats and Jammers is completely different from the first offering we heard by Chords.
Indeed.
And I'm not comparing both bands, I'm just comparing the interpretation, really. This is totally different from what I've heard previously. And this is the first time I'm hearing Cats and Jammers in this piece. First off, their appearance on stage, dressed as if they were going to a wedding. Beautiful, lovely dresses, the suits pristine.
Yeah, they're not playing when it comes to best dress.
Not at all, no. They're certainly in the running so far, right? In terms of this piece, notice everybody danced throughout. They moved, the choreography was there, but even if they were rocking from side to side, they did it from beginning right down to the end of the piece, which is also a difficult thing to maintain, so they've been well drilled. I must say, in terms of the performance of the piece itself, the interpretation, again, the intro was lively. It was lively, it was fun, you could see the faces. Now remember, one of the judges' criteria is impact and engagement, and I think they came out blasting with that right now. Probably getting all full 10 points, who knows, but I'm not judging tonight, am I? But the part of the song, because this arrangement goes from lively and then it just goes down, the tempo changes, the mood changes, and they kept this very quiet, peaceful, almost hymn-like interpretation of the piece right through to the end. Notice that in their case, they did not end the piece softly at all.
So
They
we're
had a
in for
wonderful
contrasts
crescendo.
with this. This is wonderful. Things to look forward
Sharon, I'm dying to see the score.
to. All right.
I wish I could see the
There
score.
speaks an adjudicator.
Yes.
All right, well, they're ready now for the tune of choice, which is a Shostakovich piece, the Festival Overture. That should be coming up in a short while. I think even if you don't recognize when we say it's the Festival Overture, when you hear it, you'll recognize it, because it's one of those pieces that has found an international repertoire. And this is, again, the Prime Minister talked about memories of the festival from the days, the 80s and onward.
The classics.
The classics. So this is what we would say is a piece of classical music, because that is the traditional classical music. And that's not to say that you cannot write a piece in a classical style. So it doesn't have to be from the early 20th century to be, or of course the 18th century, 17th century, to be a classical piece. But this is one of those traditional pieces. And when we hear more about it from our MC, you'll understand more about the tune of choice. So let's cross stage side to hear more about this Shostakovich piece.
It's entitled Festive Overture. It's a classical piece that was composed by Dmitri Shostakovich in 1954. This piece was composed to show Shostakovich's brighter side, with the use of themes which he altered and intermingled in a masterly way. It is comprised of a contrast of both lively and solemn expressions. Festive Overture was selected by Katzenjammer Steel Orchestra to showcase their ability to perform Shostakovich's scored perception of his composition. The selection is intended to showcase their deep understanding of the genre and ability to accurately perform its expressive features. By performing this piece, the steel orchestras will demonstrate their capability to simulate the sound and dynamics of a traditional string and brass orchestra. Moreover, it highlights the discipline, the precision required to perform under the direction of a conductor, mirroring the expectations of a classical orchestra. Ladies and gentlemen, the pride of Black Rock, put your hands together for Katzenjammer's Steel Orchestra. Festive Overture. Conducted by Sheldon Peters. Ladies and gentlemen, the pride of Black Rock Tobago, Cats and Jammers Steel Orchestra. Their tune of choice, Festive Overture. We're getting ready for our third steel band for the evening. Are you enjoying it thus far, ladies and gentlemen? Yes.
And that's a wonderful, vivacious piece of music. The tune of choice, Shostakovich's Festive Overture. Michelle, what did you think of that particular rendition?
Oh my gosh. But you know something? Our pan players have been so used to playing such fast passages, even for Panorama, that doing it now was a bonus to them. They handled it. This piece is well known for its super fast speeds, and it got even faster, and they handled it really well. You heard the melodic line, those tenors. I'm sure this band has been well drilled, because it's only serious drilling that could get you to keep those notes clean, crisp, the passages clear, and you heard every section. I just love the basses though. The bass line just punctuated. They didn't get to go as fast as the tenors, but they punctuated and kept them in check. Oh my gosh, this is brilliant.
So you're giving them high marks for the discipline, because this is a piece that looks for a lot of discipline.
Yes, and dexterity, skill. You know, one of the things I look for in the band, and I wanted to mention it, but I know we're here for quite a while, is that in any arrangement, you need, and this helps with the selection of the music too. What piece do you choose that best brings out the beauty of your steel orchestra?
Yes, your strengths.
Right, and also to show off the different sections of the band. So you heard the basses. There was a point where I heard the mid-range, and then the tenors had the runs on the top, the fast passages. So you have to be careful in selecting your piece that really shows off all the sections. And it's still something I look for, and I'm sure most of the judges do. You look for also the panorama pieces, because you want an arrangement that doesn't just feature one section of the band. Everybody has to star out at some point. Wow.
And they were all stars in this, Cats and Jammers, Steel Orchestra from Tobago. And they chose a piece that I've heard described as an orchestral firework. And I think that's a very good description for it. So if anybody was thinking of nodding off, they certainly would have woken up.
Not
right
in this
up.
piece.
Not in this piece from Cats and Jammers, Steel Orchestra. And as we said a bit earlier on, you'll hear different pieces, different adaptations of classical music in some cases. I haven't really gone through to see if anybody's got, yes, we have some original pieces as well in this competition. So it's wonderful for our viewers to be able to contrast, because, for example, we started off with a movie score as a tune of choice, and that becomes like pop culture. You know, Star Wars, the theme, we could all pick up the lines, the melodic lines in there, and feel uplifted when we heard them, because we remember the movie, and you're associating what happens in the movie with the music. So wonderful. And then we have now a classical piece, a traditional classical piece, where many of us would recognize, if not, you know, recognize totally it's Shostakovich's work, a Soviet composer, and that it was actually written as a kind of propaganda piece, because it marked the, I think it's the 37th anniversary of the October, the great October Socialist Revolution. But who cares about that when you can hear just, a vivacity, as you say, those passages, it just lifts you up and keeps you going. There's no coming back down to earth. You're just going up there, and then when you get to the pitch of it, to the peak of it, you just say, okay, let me fly. You know, so well done here. And for those who are not familiar, those who are new to pan music perhaps, those who are new to classical music, I think that these kinds of festivals brought you to a love of classical music, because oftentimes people might think it's elitist, all sorts of things, but music is music. And when you hear this kind of music, if you're tuned into the energies of the music, you're going to fly. And that's what we did with Cats and Jammers. So rhythm and tone, best dress, dress, fabulous look of the orchestra when you're talking. And what I noticed though is that, I just love hearing cymbals, the clashing of the cymbals.
Yes.
So for those who want to make a game of it, if the camera is not on the person performing with the instrument, you can say, but what am I hearing? And there were some other sounds that we were hearing there as well in the orchestra. And that's what we were talking about when we were talking about those conventional symphony instruments not normally brought together with the steel pan, but being done so for a music festival.
Sharon, I'm about to put on my music educator's hat here.
Please do.
Because I'm hoping that, there will be probably, on Pancho Beagle's page, you will find these performances. Having been recorded tonight, they will be available for posterity. And I'm hoping that teachers and students will be able to pull these into their classes, especially music teachers, because part of our lower secondary and our CSEC program is music analysis, being able to identify instruments. For me, I love independence. So I go to the parade, and when I go back to school, when school opens, I spend the whole of the first week teaching everybody about what took place on the Independence Day parade, because there's so many bands and the music, and we film it, etc. I'm sorry, school is closed at Independence. Sorry.
Oh, Lois,
But
we have to have our little break. But as you say, it's archival material. People can go and take the archival material. They can also go, I believe WACK will also have it on YouTube. So people are free. And please do tell your friends, your family, your co-workers, your colleagues, random strangers you meet in the streets, if you want to hear what the pan can do beyond what you may think as calypso or soca tempo.
According to some people, noise.
Yeah, so we won't mention them, will we? So we will advise you or encourage you to tell people they can go onto WACK, their YouTube channel, look in the archival material, or Pancho Vega, as you say, and just pull up these performances. You'll find your favorite. So we've had 2 out of 10 bands tonight. Probably going into the early morning, but fingers crossed. And we are looking forward to a feast of steel pan excellence for the other 8 bands. Remember, results will be given, so we of course invite you to stay with us so that you'll hear the results. So we should be getting ready now for band number 3, which is from
the south.
So let's cross stage side and hear more about Pan Elders.
Let's welcome on stage Pan Elders Orchestra. Pan Elders Orchestra had its own beginning
at Gems Recreation Club of Carib Street, San Fernando. Its original members, with the advent of Carnival season 1999, the band took to the streets and was given the opportunity to represent the 1965 and 1967 South Panorama champions, Guinness Cavaliers, at Champs of the 20th Century in the year 2000. From there, it was no turning back. It was success after success. The evidence is there to be seen. Victory in 2008, small, and from 2014 to 2019, 6 straight titles. To perform their test piece, Dedication by David Rudder. Ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome to Pan Elders Orchestra. Let's hear it for the conductor, Carrie Codrington. Keisha Codrington. Let's hear it one more time, ladies and gentlemen, for Pan Elders Steel Orchestra, their test piece, dedication by David Rudder.
You gave us the inspiration to be first. We gave you the solutions that put you first. You trusted us with your vision. We paved the way with innovation. You walked with us side by side, and we continued to serve you with pride. First Citizens is proud of everything we've achieved together. We made dreams a reality, shaped success stories, and painted brighter futures. And together, we'll accomplish so much more. First Citizens, we put you first.
Welcome to the vibrant and colorful Caribbean paradise of Trinidad and Tobago, where the culture is as lively as the people. And when it comes to streaming Trinbago entertainment, there is no better platform than WACK.tv, with a vast selection of local music genres like conscious and humorous calypsos, soca, haram, and many more. WACK.tv is a go-to destination for all your Trinbago entertainment needs. From the latest soca and calypso music videos rolling the Trinbagonian airwaves to cultural events such as carnival, calypso, soca, and steel pan competitions, WACK.tv has something for everyone. And with live streaming of these events, you'll never miss a beat of the island's pulse. With a user-friendly interface, high-definition streaming, and the ability to watch on any device, WACK.tv brings the best of Trinbago culture straight to your screens. So join the millions of satisfied viewers already hooked on WACK.tv. Log in, subscribe, and start streaming today.
And the music, the sweet sounds of steel continue here at the Jean Pierre Complex in Port of Spain, the mecca of the steel pan. And this is the Trinidad and Tobago National Steel Band Music Festival Finals for 2024, the orchestra category. Steel pan is more beautiful. That's the theme, with a sort of subtitle, Canopium Amoris, Canopy of Love. So, a lot of love going out to our bands here from the audience and from you at home. Thank you for all the comments on the stream. And we are happy to have Michelle Darridge with us, who was listening very attentively to that test piece, dedication. And again, I'm always happy to say, female arranger, conductor, one of our talents, prodigies, creatives, Keisha Codrington. Your impressions, Michelle?
Well, first of all, Keisha is the only female conductor here tonight, this evening, among all the gentlemen. So it is a joy to see her, as tiny as she is, leading the band. I enjoyed this piece, basically from a balance point of view. I really enjoyed this piece. I love how soft the basses got. But Sharon, we run out of time because they are ready for their second piece. We'll come back.
And her powerful imagination to create and compose the musical tune of choice, the thrills of Mosi Oatunia, the wilderness, in classic moods and structures for the Steel Pan Orchestra, Pan Elders Steel Orchestra. The musical storytelling classic captures the thrilling cracking of the thunders and lightnings, to the billowing, cloudy, misty waterfall curtains, dripping down the cascading waterfall of Mosi Oatunia, the smoke that thunders, cliffs to the devil pool below with its treacherous songs of strong water currents, and overtoes to the insect, birds and animals grazing the pastures. The songs of the haunted by the hunter, and the thundering hooves and the feet of those on the run. The chase is to breed, taking in the sound. Ladies and gentlemen, please to perform their tune of choice. Put your hands together for Pan Elders Steel Orchestra. Conductor Keisha Codrington. Ladies and gentlemen, band number 3, hailing from Carib Street in San Fernando. Put your hands together one more time for Pan Elders Steel Orchestra. Their tune of choice, The Thrills of Mosi Oatunia, The Wilderness. Right, yes. Somebody say all of that, The Wilderness, all right? Nice. So as I mentioned at the beginning of tonight's competition, there are three...
We were thrilled by the tune of choice as performed by Pan Elders, Steel Orchestra from San Fernando, and again, as we mentioned before, the only female conductor, arranger for the evening, and she composed the piece as well. So we are totally impressed with this particular piece, The Thrills of Mosi Oatunia, The Wilderness. And I know, Michelle, you were engrossed because we heard all these sounds, including, I believe, conch shell.
Yes, Sharon. If we go back to our program notes, it says that the musical storytelling that Keisha has put forth in this piece captures the thrilling cracking of the thunders and lightnings to the billowing cloud, misty waterfalls draping down of the cascading waterfall of Mosi Oatunia, etc. Exactly what was written here is what we heard and saw in this piece. When we look at music appreciation, we sort of put this in the category of program music. It tells a story. So everything that happens in the music, in the melody, in the actual composition tells a particular story, and we heard it. What I loved about this piece, and you can see it in a number of the bands, is the use of the percussion. Even though, let's say, we've had a test piece and now we have the own choice, bands have become very creative in how they assemble their percussion and what they use. So for this one to bring out all these natural sounds of the wilderness, Keisha engaged this gentleman. I don't know who this man is, but if you look carefully at the front left of your screen of the stage, you would have noticed him with his whole contraption of natural implements that created these fantastic wilderness sounds of birds. You saw the fog machine pushing out as if it were literally a waterfall falling off the stage. In terms of the execution of the music, I think what captured me the most would have been the basses. The basses in this particular band were sensitive. They were soft, but they were clean, and the balance, whenever they played, the balance was just perfect.
Well, that is quite an endorsement indeed from Michelle Darridge, our music educator, and so much more. And what we would say, following on from you talking about the percussion, I didn't get to have a good look at the gentleman, but Jaja, the late Jaja Onilu, is the man who I most associate with using all these natural beads. He had jumbie beads, he had pieces of bamboo, he had all sorts of bits and pieces that you wouldn't expect to get the sounds from. So I have no doubt that if not someone from his family, certainly someone, a protege or somebody who followed on a mentee or somebody.
And down south, Sharon, we have Tamba Gwindi, who does the same thing.
Yes, of course, Tamba.
And I know the gentleman, I cannot pronounce his name. Right, I cannot pronounce his name as well as he did, but his son has
carried over. Yes, this is why it might well have been, but I just didn't get a close-up look from where we are. We have a different kind of view. But what I will say is that it was impressive indeed for any measure, to hear this particular piece, and as we say, own composition, not traditional classical, but something which certainly for me is in a classic style.
Yes.
Our own classic. This is it, where I find it so impressive that for this particular festival, we have people unafraid. And I think a lot of the work that we see coming out and the confidence that we coming out in our ranges is because of people like the UTT, the University of Trinidad and Tobago, where they really have instilled in our students, who are now masters or mistresses of their craft, this kind of confidence in what they're doing.
Yes, Sharon, because someone pointed that out to me recently, and if you look at it, almost every composer and conductor of each band would have been a product of UTT and or the University of the West Indies, all who have come through the Bachelor of Arts program in music.
All right, so let's take a quick review of what we've seen and heard, because there's an intermission right now where the bands, because they're using one large stage, they now will have to move their instruments to allow for the next 3 bands. Remember, we have 10 bands, and so that's going to take a little bit of time, but we do have an intermission going on at the moment, so you're not missing any band or anything. We're going to just do a little wrap-up of what we've heard, and then we too will be taking a break. But we'll be back, of course, with more of the Steel Pan Excellent, the sweet sounds of steel in this format, in a sort of classical format. And even what I noticed, of course, Michel has spoken about before, the contrast in how they are approaching the test piece.
Yes.
And I think that, for me, is something I'm really looking forward to just see how many ways you could do the same piece.
Which gives a whole new vibe to the meaning of a test piece, because I know even from a choral standpoint, when you get a test piece, you make sure and interpret it exactly as it is written. But the test piece tonight still allows for a measure of creativity.
Indeed it does, and that's the hallmark of Trinidad and Tobago, I've got to say.
Yes.
That we have, someone once said it so well, but they were talking about limbo. We can take nothing and make it something. And in the same way that for mass, somebody will give you a basic costume and you taking it home, and by the time you hit the road in the band with your costume, believe you me, somebody is saying, oh my gosh, that design, how did you manage it? And the same thing applying with so many aspects of our lives here in Trinidad and Tobago. So we're glad that you're here. Just to run it down a little bit, we heard 3 bands, 3 orchestras so far in this, the category orchestras for the National Steel Band Music Festival. Steel Pan is more beautiful. First, we heard from Laventil, Court Sound Specialists of Laventil. Again, the test piece, and they brought in music from a movie score. So John Towner Williams's The Jedi, The Steps of Jedi, that's from Star Wars 7 and Finale. Again, Michel, impressed. Nice. We've heard the steps, the interpretation, great. Then we went to Tobago, and Cats and Jammers Steel Orchestra from Black Rock in Tobago, and a very special welcome to all Tobagonians, those in Tobago and elsewhere who are tuned into this broadcast. Thank you for being with us. And they went more traditional with their tune of choice. It was Shostakovich's Festive Overture. Impressive, very impressive. An orchestral firework. Vivacious, fast, clean, disciplined.
Superb virtuosity.
Okay.